Have you ever known someone who was being hurt, lied to, or manipulated, maybe even having their heart completely broken, yet somehow they just couldn't walk away? They promised themselves, okay, this is the last time, but somehow they go right back, again and again. Well, why does this happen? The hidden psychology behind why letting go of toxic people feels almost impossible actually goes far deeper than just being in love. It's definitely not a matter of weak willpower or even low self-esteem. There's an incredibly complex system at work right under the surface of this explainer today, tying human emotion, deep-seated survival instincts, and subconscious neurological patterns together in a way that makes breaking free a literal monumental task.
So why do highly intelligent people stay attached to those who cause them so much pain? From the outside, it sounds incredibly simple, right? If they hurt you, just leave. But, well, the human brain simply does not work that way. The inability to walk away is absolutely not a personal weakness. The real answer is actually hiding deep inside the brain's circuitry. Psychologists have discovered that toxic dynamics create powerful neurological patterns. These patterns keep people attached long after they know the situation is profoundly unhealthy. The logical mind absolutely knows it's time to pack up and go, but the emotional and survival centers of the brain are effectively hijacked, actively working against that perfectly good logic.
Let's look at the difference here. In a healthy relationship, the environment is predictable. People know exactly where they stand, there's mutual respect, and the baseline feeling is just safe and secure. The nervous system can actually relax. But in a toxic relationship, that dynamic flips entirely. These connections follow a totally different pattern, characterized by this wild roller coaster of extreme emotional highs and lows. One day, a person is made to feel like the most important human in the world, just flooded with affection. And then the next day, they're ignored, pushed away, or made to question their own reality. These extreme, unpredictable shifts keep the brain in a constant state of high alert, just desperately hoping that the next good moment is right around the corner.
Psychologists actually call this specific phenomenon intermittent reinforcement. It's the exact same neurological hook that makes slot machines in a casino so incredibly addictive. When someone pulls a slot machine lever, they don't win every single time. If they did, it would actually get boring pretty fast. It's the uncertainty, the sheer unpredictability of the reward that causes a massive surge of dopamine. Because the emotional rewards in a toxic dynamic are completely unpredictable, the brain becomes hyper-focused on getting them. This creates powerful emotional chains, literally wiring the mind to constantly crave that next positive interaction just to feel okay again.
Spend enough time on this exhausting emotional roller coaster, and a devastating psychological trap takes hold. The brain actually starts confusing pain with love. Just imagine someone causes deep emotional hurt, creating a huge spike of cortisol and extreme stress. But then, hours or maybe days later, they apologize. They become kind, affectionate, and loving again. For a brief moment, all that stress just vanishes, and everything feels perfect. The brain experiences a massive rush of relief from the anxiety that was just inflicted. And the truly terrifying part is that the human brain processes this sudden rush of relief almost exactly like a powerful organic reward.
It turns into a relentless, inescapable loop. First, there's the pain and the betrayal. Then comes the apology and all those promises to change. Next is the intense relief when things finally go back to normal. And finally, the repeat. Pain, apology, relief, repeat. Over time, the brain subconsciously associates that profound feeling of relief directly with the very person causing the hurt in the first place. The person inflicting the wound somehow becomes the only acceptable medicine for the pain. The mind begins to genuinely believe that true love is supposed to feel like this traumatic rescue from devastation, which completely distorts the reality of the situation.
This whole cycle creates what is known as trauma bonding. Now, this isn't about someone secretly enjoying the pain or lacking self-respect. Not at all. It's about the brain becoming chemically and emotionally attached to the continuous cycle of pain and relief itself. The relationship morphs into the only environment where both severe distress and deep comfort exist side by side. The brain gets so deeply anchored to this intense loop that breaking free becomes incredibly difficult. Even when an individual logically recognizes that the dynamic is highly toxic and destroying their peace, that trauma bond pulls them back like a giant gravitational force.
There's a striking truth in human psychology. Familiar doesn't always mean safe. Human brains naturally prefer what they know, even when that familiarity is actively harmful. If months or years are spent deeply intertwined with someone, the brain builds these deeply ingrained daily routines around them. Their text messages, their voice, their daily presence, their attention, and yes, even their chaos. When that person disappears, the brain doesn't just lose a human being, it loses a heavily established routine. And if there's one thing the human brain absolutely hates, it's sudden uncertainty and a void of routine.
There is a quote that hits the nail on the head here. Familiar pain can feel easier to face than unfamiliar change. Sometimes people stay trapped not because they feel secure or happy, but because stepping into a void of unpredictability is utterly terrifying. Leaving means stepping into a completely blank slate. It means rewriting daily habits, facing lonely evenings, and dealing with a totally uncertain future. For a brain that is absolutely craving its established routine, the familiar pain and predictable arguments at the toxic dynamic often appears the much safer, more manageable option, compared to the terrifying vastness of unfamiliar change. To really understand this deep-seated fear of the unknown, we have to look at human evolution. For thousands of years of human history, being separated from the tribe and left alone out in the wild meant absolute physical danger. Isolation literally meant predators, starvation, and a lack of shelter. While the modern brain still carries this exact same primitive programming today, it often treats emotional separation like a literal physical threat to survival. The primal brain fears losing connection way more than it fears pain, equating an emotional breakup or distance with genuine, life-threatening danger.
Because of that deep survival mechanism, walking away triggers an intense neurological alarm system. The separation brings on severe anxiety, profound sadness, and genuine physical stress. The chest tightens, sleep becomes impossible, and the body literally feels panicked. The brain isn't necessarily saying, hey, this toxic person is actually good for you. Instead, it's desperately pleading, don't lose the connection, it's dangerous out there. This hidden evolutionary fear often becomes overwhelmingly stronger than the logical realization of the pain the relationship is causing, physically keeping individuals trapped without them even realizing why they feel so panicked. But here is the truly empowering news. The brain can learn something new and completely rewire itself. A lot of folks assume that if leaving was the right decision, it should feel incredibly good and freeing right away. But healing actually feels deeply uncomfortable for a very simple reason. The brain is in active recovery. When someone finally walks away from a toxic dynamic, the brain is suddenly stripped of a chemical and emotional pattern it has relied on for a very long time. The discomfort isn't a sign of failure at all. It's the physical sensation of the brain actively building new, much healthier neural pathways. It is absolutely crucial to recognize these healing symptoms for what they truly are. The silence in the house will feel strange and unsettling. The distance from the person will physically ache. And yes, an individual will likely deeply miss the toxic person who caused the pain. But experiencing these symptoms does not mean the wrong choice was made. Think of it exactly like a physical detox. It's simply the neurological system detoxing from an old, toxic pattern and experiencing withdrawal. The discomfort is temporary, and it's just a necessary part of the body adjusting to a much healthier reality. Understanding these hidden psychological patterns is the ultimate key to stopping self-blame. When people realize this struggle is all about neurological wiring, intermittent reinforcement, trauma bonding, and evolutionary fear, the overwhelming shame just disappears. It is not about foolishness or weakness. This exact knowledge is the tool needed to break those heavy emotional chains and build genuine, lasting peace. Over time, as distance is maintained, those intense emotional cravings become weaker and weaker. The nervous system finally regulates, and real peace, the kind that does not depend on unpredictable emotional chaos, begins to flourish.
Real love should never leave a person constantly anxious, confused, or afraid. It should always provide safety, mutual respect, and profound peace. The biggest battles aren't always happening in relationships, they're happening right inside the mind. By understanding the brain's psychological traps and neurological hooks, anyone can take back their power and choose peace over chaos. True freedom is waiting right on the other side of that temporary discomfort. So are you ready to step through the door of freedom?